You're listening to another episode of the Just Go Bike podcast, powered by RAGBRAI. This is the award-winning podcast where we are all about the culture of cycling, just for the fun of it. Your hosts are Murph from the Murphology podcast and AP from Parrot Talk. With tales from all over the nation, come for the bikes, stay for the fun, and leave with a smile. And now here is Murph.
Hey, that's me.
And AP.
Hey, that's me. Well, hi, Murph.
Hey there, AP. We're live together at Parrot Talk Studios.
I know, what a treat.
And I literally had the shirt that you're wearing on, and then I changed to this shirt, which I think you probably have this shirt as well. So we are failing at doing the matchy match.
I know, and we're double failing because we're not recording this, so no one even knows what shirt we're wearing. You could have lied.
Should we do a retake? Look at us matching.
We could.
Nah.
I'm wearing the RAGBRAI Zip Up. It's cozy. It's warm. It's freaking cold in Des Moines today, so
Yeah.
needed a layer.
It was 39 degrees when I woke up this morning.
Yeah.
And I am wearing a RAGBRAI Crew Zip Up with the trademark white stripes on the sleeves. So, yeah.
Whew.
Feeling like I should go for a run, which I will not.
Please, I ask you not to.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are recording this in late October, and it's going to be a great episode. We've got Matt Phippen, our ride director, on today to talk about like where he's at, which I think is cool. And what else is going on?
Well, speaking of cool, we're about to head over to Colorado to have a little adventure. So stay tuned for more on that. We'll probably talk about it next week because, well, we'll have to see if we can do it or not.
We haven't done it yet, right?
So, yeah. So, but I think you've been up to some stuff lately. I'd like to talk about that. It's way more interesting than anything I have to talk about. You traveled on an epic adventure recently.
I did. I did a epic bicycle tour called Mountains to Coast. So you can already tell where it started and where it ended.
In what state? In
the state of North Carolina, put on by an organization called Cycle North Carolina.
Okay, cool.
So this was like RAGBRAI in that it was a 7-day ride, but unlike RAGBRAI, it was supposed to go from Lake Lure, North Carolina to Fort Fisher, North Carolina. If you know anything about Fort Fisher, it is at the ocean. Probably super beautiful. I didn't get to find out because there was a nor'easter that came through. And so we had to stop our week a day early.
Wow. I mean, first of all, we don't get nor'easters in Iowa, but imagine stopping RAGBRAI for weather. I mean, it's just not possible.
Right. And, similar to RAGBRAI, this event is a point-to-point rather than a race. And it has a new route each year. But think of the logistical nightmare. Even though we were only about 1,000 people, which is still a lot, but we all have different homes to go to. Some people were flying, some people were taking their bikes, some people had their cars parked at the end, some people had their cars parked at the beginning. So I mean, a big high five to the gang at Cycle North Carolina because it went off without a hitch.
I mean, I'm having flashbacks to Ride the Rockies when we had to sag people even for just one day. It's a huge effort. It takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of skill to pull it off without a hitch. So all kudos to Cycle North Carolina. That's really impressive.
It was cool. And I'm really, really sad I didn't get to actually make it to the ocean. But I do. Do you want a few highlights? I can tell you how the week went.
I need to live vicariously through you. So tell me, just give me a couple highlights.
Okay. I think it was maybe around, I don't know. I'm going to guess around 400 miles, give or take. But I pedaled past miles and miles. Do you want me to keep saying it? Miles and miles and miles of both peanut fields and cotton fields, which was so cool. But I will tell you, so the peanut fields look like weeds, until the fields were right up against the road because then I could actually see what they were. But a note of warning, raw peanuts in the field look the same, but they do not taste the same as roasted peanuts that, are in fine packaging and looks good.
That's disappointing because I would just imagine myself going whole hog in that field, just having so many little peanuts. But
and I assume that was the case, but I was pedaling by and there was like a group of people in the field on their bikes and they're like, these are peanut fields.
Oh.
So I stopped too because, I wanted to check them out up close and of course make a video about it.
You know what this is?
Yeah.
It's a ultra rare crop report from you. These are crops you've never reported on.
No, peanut fields are very interesting. Cotton fields are too, but cotton looks like cotton.
I was going to say, how did you know it was a cotton field?
Because it looked like weeds on the bottom, but it was like little puffs of white all the way through. And
that's
then
cool.
The puffs of white were also kind of floating along the roads as you went.
Oh, sure.
So I did not get to see either fields being maintained or harvested.
Yeah.
So that would be something I'd be curious about. And I'm sure there's somebody out there from North Carolina that's like, oh my God, it's a cool process or whatever. So.
Yeah.
Okay, another fine highlight. I got to give a shout out to Summit Cycle Solutions because I utilize their tent and porter services.
Yeah.
Highly, highly recommend them. They are a top-notch company. I used them at a different event, which was the Colorado's Ride. You got to check out their website. It's basically just summitcyclesolutions.com. But I mean, if you're going to have to camp, it's pretty cool to get done with your bike ride. And there are, I think they had over 100 tents. They all look exactly the same, but you're assigned a number. You get to your tent and your luggage is waiting for you. An air mattress is waiting for you. So all you have to do is throw your sleeping bag on the air mattress, grab your shower bag, and go find the shower trailers.
That's amazing. They treat you like the celebrity you are.
It was awesome. So then every morning you get ready, you put all your stuff in your bag, you put your bag outside your tent, they pick it up, and then rinse and repeat the same process. It was so cool.
That's awesome. Shout out to Zach and his team. They're amazing.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Zach. So like I said, camping, it's primarily a camping event. Campgrounds each night, kind of, a smaller scale from RAGBRAI. They had really good live music every night. They had the portable showers. They had a happy hour, and typically the happy hours showcased a local brewery, so you could, figure out what your favorite brewery was in North Carolina.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, the atmosphere after you ride is maybe not as important as the ride itself, but it's right up there because you got to do something when you're not pedaling. So
exactly. Yeah. And then one day, mid-pedal, okay, so North Carolina is home to Mount Olive Pickle Company.
Okay.
Which I'm sure you have had. You may even have Mount Olive pickles in your fridge right now.
Gross. But
you don't like pickles?
I don't like pickles.
Oh, well then you won't be as excited about this. But
sorry. We
celebrated pickles at the Pickle Festival.
That is cool.
Because the route this year went through Mount Olive. So I assume they also make olives, but I don't know.
Well, it wasn't the festival, so.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the town was called Mount Olive, but I'm sure that olives come into play somewhere. But we were there for the Pickle Fest. It's known as the #1 best-selling brand of pickles. Wow. I don't know if that's in the United States or the world.
Or North Carolina.
Well, I'm a big fan. Every single day, when you go to the rest stops, you could get a peanut butter jelly sandwich and, your favorite sports drink. But they also have these little single-serve things of pickles, which you would not have picked. I absolutely love them.
What's your favorite variety of pickles? Like bread and butter, sweet, sour?
In real life or on this ride?
On the ride.
On this ride. It was the dill pickle mini little, I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
At home, it's the bread and butter.
Yeah.
For sure. But I also love sweet gherkins.
Okay. Real pickle lover over here. Okay. I learned something about you today. Yeah. Okay.
So, and I thoroughly enjoyed the Pickle Festival. If you ever end up in North Carolina, maybe check out Mount Olive. I do have a t-shirt that promotes how important the Pickle Festival was to me.
I love it. You know what? Even though I may not eat a pickle, I can appreciate your appreciation. So
it was cool.
And if we have lunch together in the future, you can have my pickle.
Okay. Well, yeah, no, I'm going to write that down.
Yeah. All right. So,
but overall, this Mountains to Coast ride put on by Cycle North Carolina It was pretty challenging as far as the actual biking, but super rewarding. I think if you're out there looking for a new adventure, I maybe consider this. It happens later in the year, so you can already utilize your RAGBRAI body and big muscles to do another event. I was also able to meet all kinds of people. Got to give a shout out to Craig, who I met on our bus ride back to our cars.
Yeah.
And he claims he's going to be a Just Go Bike podcast listener now. So Craig, I hope you're listening.
Hey, Craig.
And he also thinks he might be coming to Iowa in 2026 for RAGBRAI.
Oh, I hope so. I hope we see him at our booth at the expo in the starting town.
Exactly.
So.
I can't say enough how well planned and executed this ride was. So huge high five to Cycle North Carolina, huge high five to Summit Cycle Solutions. I feel like I'm being paid to brag about this and talk about this on their behalf, but I am not.
But really all you got was a bunch of pickles.
A pickle, a t-shirt, and a medal. I got a medal at the end.
A lifetime memory.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's flip over and talk about RAGBRAI a little bit. We have a big month coming up.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So to start things off, we always release our logo before registration opens. And our logo launch, I've been doing teases for the logo. So if you go to the RAGBRAI Facebook page, you can see that I've been doing little hints about what it might be. So you can get a little flavor of it as we get closer to the launch. But our logo is going to be released on November 8th. Mm-hmm. We make a big deal about it at our logo launch, which is November 8th at RAGBRAI HQ, and we'll have an open house. And this year, we'll also reveal our jersey at the same time, the 2026 jersey.
We should record that night.
I think we should too. Yeah, because you'll be there. Right?
Yeah, stay tuned. Okay, yeah, we might do a quick recording.
So those of you who are math geniuses will know that November 8th is a Saturday. So we don't always do these open houses on the weekends. And this year we're trying something a little bit different. So come and see us from 6 to 8 p.m. on November 8th and find out what our theme is going to be.
And RAGBRAI headquarters is located in Des Moines, Iowa.
Yes, it is. And you can find more information about all this on the blog at ragbrai.com.
Okay. And then that's November 8th. And then Matt's also going to talk about this a little bit in our interview, but November 15th is your next big day.
That's right. It's when RAGBRAI 53 registration opens. Ooh. So if you're like us and you know you're going to come to RAGBRAI, sign right up. You can also get the best price of any of the price tiers that we have throughout the year. So it's a good deal. And maybe Matt will talk about this, but we have a couple of different options for cancellation this year or transferring your pass. So it's low risk. If you think you probably are going to ride RAGBRAI, I suggest signing up now.
Okay. And Matt does not talk about the transfers, but I will tell you our previous episode, we can put a link to it.
There you go.
Erica and Aaron get into talking about transfers, which I thought was really, really informative.
Yeah. The other thing that'll happen on November 15th is route announcement party registration will also open. Ooh. So if you'd like to find out, be the first of your friends to find out where we're going to go for RAGBRAI 53, get your registration, your tickets for the route announcement party. And Murph and I will also be there. So it's going to be a good time.
All right. Well, let's get to this interview with Matt. It's always fun to kind of catch up with him and find out what he does, because throughout the year, his duties change. His mindset's always on the next RAGBRAI and how we're going to get people safely across the state. So let's hear from Matt Phippen, Ride Director, and what he's up to this time of year.
I can't wait to hear. I had a meeting during this interview, so I want to know what Matt's up to also.
All right, let's get to it. Matt Phippen, welcome back to the Just Go Bike podcast. How's it going?
It's great. Great to be back.
Here we are recording, let's say mid to towards the end of October. Things are happening behind the scenes, and riders are probably curious about it. I know I always am. So how's the route planning going?
Good. We are in full swing of route planning. Obviously, there's a lot of moving parts early on to get the route to where it's at so we can announce, the 8 overnight towns in January. Mm-hmm. So a lot of behind the scenes conversations. We have an application that's out that got kind of released at the start of October. We'll kind of close that at the end of October of towns that can actually, request to be an overnight or a pass through. And then we start having truly in-depth conversations, right now through basically December.
So you're saying if I am either the mayor or the chamber, I could fill out an application that says, hey, I want RAGBRAI to come to my community?
Absolutely. So RAGBRAI.com had a job form that you could fill out. Now, we don't want just a guy or gal who loves RAGBRAI that says, I want it to come to my town, so I'm going to fill this out on behalf of my town.
Right.
That's why we ask a lot of qualifying questions, and we want to make sure that, on that form, law enforcement is in the conversation, the schools and superintendent and principals are in conversations, obviously the mayor, because there's nothing worse than talking to a town and someone's not included that needs to be included. So obviously we vet the towns out a little bit. So if, a fan of RAGBRAI says, I want it in my small town, and they do the job of plugging everything in, before we reach out, we make sure that it makes sense.
Okay, so I already know the answer to this because A, I know you, but also I think you've talked about it on previous episodes. But does it take more than one attempt to get the route secured? Like if you think back to maybe even 2025, like what you wanted the route to be versus what it actually ended up being?
It changes so much.
Really?
Like we've talked to that. It starts on a paper map and then slowly transitions into a digital map. And then, we overlay all the projects on top of those maps. Mm-hmm. So, until we truly know every project, and that's county, that's state, that's, town projects that play a role, then we start dialing the route in. So, we collect all the data as much as we know. Mm-hmm. We've had towns now that are reached out in prior years and said, hey, in 26 or 27 or 28, we are wrapping up town projects. We would love to showcase what we've been working on to the ride. So keep us in mind, put us on the calendar, and then we'll go from there. So you have that list. I have, kind of a high level view of what the DOT projects are. So we can kind of know it's finding the sweet spot, because like for me, there's nothing better than riding on a new road or a brand new road in some cases. So if we can be in that sweet spot of a project that was happening last year, that the project is now completed, and then, in 26, put riders on a brand new road, everybody's happier. So it's finding that sweet spot or that bubble of what those projects are. Now, things change, weather plays a big role. So sometimes, projects get delayed, sometimes projects get pushed forward, money gets shifted around. So it's only as good as the paper map. Mm-hmm. And then once you start really kind of putting facts to that paper map, you learn that it changes. But I think on average, over the last, since 2022, when I started, like 5 to 7 times a route will change based on just things that pop up. And, the good news is every change is usually because of safety or something that makes the route better. And we try not to add extra miles. Obviously, gravel is a big deal, but we can't just add gravel roads to a paved route because people will lose their minds.
Right.
So you just can't, this road's not in play, we'll just take this gravel road a mile and jog across. No, you got to find a road that works.
People don't like that.
So it's just kind of, looking at what those problems are and projects are, and it's working close with State Patrol and the DOT, so it's not end all be all. This is Matt's route. Together, it's our route, and we're working on to make sure it's the safest route possible. That
makes it a lot more clear in my head, right? So you announced the route at the end of January, and then in theory, there's almost 6 months between when you announce the route, which is the overnight tons, not the entire route, versus when we all get to ride it. So much can change, whether it's extended DOT projects, natural disasters. Like I recall one year, neither one of us were in the positions we're in now, right? So you did not work for RAGBRAI. But when we did the pre-ride in June, remember that there was a bridge out, and we walked, had to go down this like dirt. I think they put plywood out. I don't remember. It was crazy. And I believe at that time, the officials that were working on it were like, it will be done by RAGBRAI.
Yep.
And it was not.
Yeah. And you have that, I had a couple bridges in my, first couple of years we had to navigate around to, kind of the same story where it was, you're walking your bike on a dirt road, a quarter of a mile to get across. And that just goes back to, projects that were either underway and then because of Mother Nature and weather delays, it gets pushed back, or, we got money now. We're full steam ahead on this project. Sorry, not sorry, RAGBRAI. We got to do this for our county.
Right.
And then they have to figure it out. But, so far we've been in a great spot where we just kind of put our heads together, figure out how we make it work. Because, as like you change one day, it could change multiple days because of everything else that plays a role.
But I think that goes to say, which is a great segue into how important it is, the relationship you have with the State Patrol and the DOT. I mean, it's clear that you communicate with them all year round, and the fact that you can communicate with them, they can communicate back with you and say, hey, this bridge project it's going slower than it should, or here's a new road that's being paved and you should consider that. So tell us a little bit more about that partnership. Like,
Sure.
What do you have going with the DOT and State Patrol?
Well, it's definitely a relationship that I'm very proud of. Without the DOT, without the State Patrol, this ride just can't happen because of just the amount of logistics that have to go into, getting on those roads. So from a DOT perspective, we obviously we're on a lot of their roads. Now you have, two different types of roads you're on. You're on a state road, which is DOT, or you're on a county road, which is truly county. Now, if you were to poll the county, they want you on all the state roads. If you were to poll the state or the DOT, they want you on all the county roads. But our commitment is we get on the safest roads possible.
Okay.
So, there's sometimes where a state road is the safest option for the ride because state roads are usually, they're longer. They don't jog like some of the county roads do. Every time you jog on a road, you have to have some form of volunteer law enforcement there to watch traffic. Where you get on a straight shot, you minimize the amount of support you need on all those turns. Plus, you're just going straight. So, people can't get off route. People can't, make the wrong turn where, a straight shot is a straight shot. So, working with the DOT, they have a gentleman that is dedicated to RAGBRAI, which is awesome. And this year will be the first year that he will be dedicated to on route all week.
Oh, wow.
So, and it's huge from us from the perspective of, in previous years, we work behind the scenes with the DOT, getting everything set up. And then if, day of there's an issue, either the State Patrol makes a phone call, I make a phone call, but we're calling someone in an office at the DOT that's then calling someone to figure out how we make this work. So perfect example is, we have message boards on the side of the road and we learn that the message board is put in the wrong spot, not giving riders or support drivers or just local traffic enough time to be safe. So you then have to call the DOT and say, hey, this message board on this, by this intersection on this road needs to be moved back, 100 yards. Can you figure that out for us? So then they call someone to try to figure it out.
Telephone.
Yeah, telephone, right?
Yeah.
So now we will have someone on route with us that will basically be, on route that morning, driving early to make sure it all makes sense. So the plan makes sense. So if we have predetermined message boards, they're in the right spot, they're actually turned on. That's when a problem we ran into last year. You forget to flip the switch. So now we have this awesome message board that somebody paid for or rented that's sitting dark because we didn't flip the switch right, or it's just in the wrong spot. So then literally in real time, you see it and go, this is wrong. We got to fix this. And then hopefully before the riders get there, it's in the right spot. So having, Jim be on route with us traveling takes the interaction out of the equation where, the State Patrol doesn't need to see it first. He's going to physically see it and go, okay, day one's great. Day two has an issue. We had to fix this quick because he's on the route physically seeing it. So that's a huge upgrade compared to last year. We are, blessed that we have, the relationship where the DOT feels that we can have a body and they will pay for a body to be out there with us traveling because of the safety of the ride. But it's also, they know this is their job. They know the roads better than I do. So I want to be put on the best roads. And, we saw it this year as we're, submitting maps early on that, you have a district lead reach out and go, man, this road just kind of in rough shape. Have RAGBRAI look at it to make sure they feel good about it before we even start having conversations. So then it's me being out there driving on a road, looking at it going, ooh, this is a problem. Or no, it's not as bad as what they think. Because I will tell you, there's a lot of pride in the DOT in the different districts from a road construction standpoint and a condition standpoint. So, they want to make sure the roads are constantly under the microscope and getting fixed over the course of the years. And they want, riders to be able to have a good experience on the roads and not feel like they're hitting a centerline crack or, a thump on the front tire every, 10 feet because of a crack that goes across. So, having them play a role helps us be safe. And then, you have the State Patrol side, which is I feel it's one of the best relationships we have with all our partners. There's a gentleman that I'm very close with that, he's kind of the lead for us. We talk all the time about the route and, how to make it better and what we need to do to improve everything going forward. But, they come with two teams. They have a team that works all the intersections for the most part. And they have a team that kind of pushes the ride across. And, what I've saw last year and then even the start of the year before was the ride is actually moving the way the ride should. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, the team that pushes is, when I first started, they would pull into a town and people were in no sense of hurry to get moving and they would push back. Well, I'm drinking my beer. I'll stay here as long as I want. Mm-hmm. You can't tell me that I need to leave. And that turned into this, this safety issue where now we have more people at the back of the ride that we have to worry about and getting them off the roads by 6 p.m. They're still on the road.
Right.
So now you fast forward to last year where, we had towns that were shutting down before State Patrol was even there because the ride is just moving better. Some of the bigger party teams have now kind of learned how we're doing things and help support it. So, if and when they are at the back of the pack and they see State Patrol pull in, it's last call, it's time to go. There's no questions, there's no pushback. So now you're able to, have the ride move across the way it should. So then there are no hiccups. And then you're able to get riders, and towns closed down naturally rather than being forced to close down because there's just too many people there.
What's funny about that is that there's probably a lot of RAGBRAI riders that have never seen the close down process. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Because they're already they've got their tent set up by noon. They're already going to go find the air conditioning in the town and explore it. And maybe it's my age, no comment from you, Matt. But as I've grown older, I realize that, if you're at a really cool stop, there's a big party going and I'm going to have one more beer before I hit the road. And then you see the state troopers pull in, you're like, oh man, they're crashing the party. But the thing now that I realize is that there's a festival happening in the next town and in the next town and then in the overnight town. I have more of a sense of FOMO now where I'm sure. I got to get going because this next town has spent a lot of time, a lot of volunteers to throw a party for us. So let's keep going.
Yeah. My mom used a line and now I'm using it with my daughters that, nothing good happens after midnight,
Yeah.
And, my tie-in is nothing that good happens at the end of the back of the ride, right? Mm-hmm. All the fun stuff is really happening, advancing forward. Mm-hmm. So, if you are in that back of the pack, it's usually because you got a late start to the day, you kind of fell behind. But yeah, to your point, there's always a town that's ahead of you that's waiting for you. And sometimes, in a lot of cases, the last town, the overnight town's waiting for you. So, we want to make sure that every town has the same amount of time to capitalize on the experience. Mm-hmm. And, if we didn't have State Patrol helping us advance forward, you have a town that just, does a great job like all the towns do. But then that one, beer stop turns into a 4 beer stop. And then you're like, oh, wow, we're 2 hours behind now.
Right.
Where the State Patrol just helps you understand time of day. So you can get lost in Iowa. You can enjoy the experience and know when, the troopers roll in with their cars that, it's now time to go. Because you do have people that they want to be the yellow jersey winner. They want to win the day before anybody gets up.
Sure.
You have the people that are all in the middle, the big masses, and then you have the people that want to be at the back.
Right.
So it's truly whatever you want it to be. My goal is to have the route closed and be safe by 6:00 p.m. So I can be in the overnight town, focus on the overnight experience, and not have to worry about masses being still on the road when it's dark, because then it truly becomes a safety issue.
And the party, whether or not you party with alcohol or just party as a festival, the party continues after 6:00 because
Absolutely.
That overnight town, they've been planning it for it big time as well. So there's so much going on every day of RAGBRAI that you don't have to sit in one spot for 4 hours.
No.
Okay, so as when we started this podcast, I was talking about here we are towards the end of October. typically, like, what do you work on this time of year? Like, what are you doing?
Well, I have to get the 8 overnight towns kind of picked, have conversations with them to get them to feel good about what their life's going to look like over the next, 7+ months leading up to the ride. And then you're locking in all the pass-through towns. Mm-hmm. So, since we have kind of started, there's been 35 to 38 total towns on route. So that's, 35 to 38 total conversations about RAGBRAI. And, from my perspective, I like walking into a city hall or a chamber and, they see either RAGBRAI on my hat or my shirt and then instantly get that reaction of, are they excited to see me because like they're jumping out of the trail, or are they hiding under their desks now, sucking their thumb in the fetal position because they're nervous? Because it truly is my first kind of test of the temperature in the room. Mm-hmm. Most of the time you walk in and like the smile pops on their face and they're excited, but they're nervous, right?
Right.
But every once in a while you have this, kind of like, the feeling that they don't really want you there mm-hmm. because either a bad experience that they had in previous years, or they just look at it and go, man, this is such a big undertaking. Can we even pull this off?
And a perfect example is 2025. I mean, you picked some towns that maybe 200 people population or 500 people. Like logistically, I don't even understand how they pulled it off. You know what I mean? With the amount of volunteers. So, that particular town may have, a church that's 10 miles away, but there may be other towns that also go to that church. So when you have a volunteer group in one community, it might be taking from volunteers from another community. So how it all worked, it is still a little bit vague in my head, but somehow it worked. The towns nailed it this year. Yeah. So that's just also something that you probably have to consider when you walk into, trying to read the temperature of the room. We've got a population of 200 people. Are they really going to try and pull it off? And,
the cool thing now is, this will be my 5th route, and I now have data that I can show a town, of any size that they can pull it off.
Yeah.
But it truly takes, we say it takes a village to make it happen. And, there's no better feeling than talking to a brand new town year one, and they say, we never thought you'd come to us because of the highway that comes into town. And like we're now showing, Iowa that we can get on some of these roads that, maybe in previous years we just couldn't because of relationships with DOT or traffic or all those things. So to now have a town go, man, we just thought we'd never be able to be a part of RAGBRAI, and we're like so appreciative. And they were one of our best towns. And, when you talk to them at the end, the amount of give back and, economic impact that was left in those towns, they want it again because of just of what it is. So it's finding ways to say yes. It's super easy to say no and move on. It means when you say yes, you got to commit to something and you got to figure out how to pull it off. So when a town, says yes and then knows that we're here to help support and be a part of, their event and help them be successful, it gets easier. But then, it's the volunteers have to come and, all these other pieces have to fall into play too. But, like what I think is so cool is there's not a town in Iowa that I don't think we can't go to just based on routes. But it will take the town to be able to pull it off.
Yeah. And I was laughing internally just now. Could you tell?
No.
Okay. Because I'm thinking, some people probably are like, all right, so Matt decides the route, let's say the pass-through towns, you announce those in March-ish, and then you're probably like, yep, see you in July. But
just take some time off to relax a little bit.
Yeah, and then you just sit back and hope, but absolutely not.
No.
I mean, I think you've talked about it many times.
Yeah,
many times?
Yeah, we're, leading up. I've already been on the route twice. I'm going to be on the route again on this next week. And, it's roughly about 20 trips across the state, 20 week-long trips when it's all said and done. We usually start on a Monday. We usually get done on a Thursday, and then we have our staff meetings on that Friday. But it's showing up for the towns because we know if we do, they show up for the riders.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to walk in, build those relationships, let them know that, hey, we're in this together. It's not hope you figure it out and we'll see you in July.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, then you're kind of leaving a lot on the table of what could go wrong, where you want them to feel like we're going to be able to figure this out together. At the end of the day too, from our perspective, we want this to be their festival. It's just RAGBRAI brings the people, you provide the experience, right? So if the town can do that, then we're going to be in a good spot, but we cannot do it without the towns. The way that we treat the towns is it's support for the riders. So, having a town and try to average around 10 miles between towns seems to be the sweet distance for everything. Obviously there's some days that are longer, some days that are shorter, but when you can average around 10 miles, riders can get the support that they need because the towns have it and they're ready for it. But we're learning, last year, and we're going to go hard on this year, is our riders are not doing a good job prior preparing themselves, from a hydration standpoint, from a food standpoint. They're not putting enough water and calories into their body over the course of the week. And then they're frustrated because they're taking an ambulance ride when they paid to ride their bicycle. So, you're going to see a lot more this year of nutrition talk and just, putting stuff into your body that prepares you to be successful on RAGBRAI, because these riders that come in, the misconception of, it's hilly in Iowa. Well, it is. And it's hot in Iowa. Yes, it is. And it's humid. And yes. But then you don't do right by the ride to, keep your body in a good spot. And then your body starts to shut down, and then you're frustrated because you can't go anymore. So do the things prior, take full advantage of the water stations, take full advantage of the food that's in these towns, and just stay ahead of it, because the day that where it is super hot and you're sweating crazy, the amount of water that's leaving your body, if you're not putting it back in, you're going to be in a bad spot. So I think riders too think that ought to show up the day of and be good to go. You got to start, putting water in your body the week or multiple weeks prior just to get ready to go.
And not everybody lives in this sort of humid, hot environment. So if you're, coming from, I don't know, I'm making it up, but Alaska.
Sure.
You come to Iowa and your body may not be prepared for the elements, but for sure mentally you won't be prepared.
Yep, for sure.
Okay. So, all right, I already can feel that I'm going to need to train more, drink more. I don't know if this is like a segue of you telling us it's going to be a extra hilly, extra hot, extra windy year.
What I can tell you is there's going to be hills. There's going to be wind. There's going to be heat. But you're going to be on a bike somewhere in Iowa.
Yeah, you're not telling us much. So.
No.
Okay. Will you tell us or remind us a little bit about what it means to give back in each of the towns that you choose?
Absolutely. So we understand, and I know for a fact that without towns, we don't have a ride, right? I mean, that's if we don't have the way to support our riders, we just can't do it, because we can't have aid stations in every, side of the road ready to go for the thousands that show up. So we want the towns to feel that we are there to support them. Obviously, like I told you, we travel, we're there face to face, we're talking through all the different committees to make sure they feel good about that. But there is the money side of things that needs to happen early on, because, you go into a town and they see RAGBRAI in my shirt and instantly they're like, how are we going to pay for this? Because it is a massive undertaking.
What kinds of things do they have to pay for?
Well, you think of like the first thing you're going to want to order is porta potties.
Sure.
So,
yeah, they're not cheap.
To order, 30 porta potties for a small town Iowa, it's like $5,000.
Wow. Okay.
Or $6,000 depending on where you go through. So they instantly go, how do we pay for that? And that's something you want to lock in right away, because you have every town around you trying to do the same thing, and you don't want to wait and then they're sold out, and now you have to pay for porta potties from a different county to come in.
Right.
And just the cost of that extra, problem is more than you want to spend. So instantly jumping on that. So we said we need to find a way to make sure that we are supporting the towns financially. So towns don't want to say no because of finances. They want to say yes because they know they're going to get taken care of. So, early on, I think an overnight town got $8,500, back in the day. And you look at that and go, $8,500, man, that's barely covering the porta potty expense, especially for an overnight town.
Sure.
So how do they do it? Well, the answer was they figured it out. They passed the hat at church, they raised money, they got sponsors, and they were able to figure it out. But what can we do differently to get these towns that are on the fence that go, man, we don't want to do it because financially we just don't want to put ourselves at risk. So we came up with a number, and the number kind of, it definitely changed from my year in 2022 to 2025. But right now it's overnight towns will receive $50,000 in basically cash from RAGBRAI to then start the planning process with RAGBRAI. So we give them that money to invest in the community, to then they invest in the riders, and then the riders will invest back in the community with the financial impact. So, that money goes into an account. Instantly, bills are starting to be paid. They still go out and they talk to sponsors. They still raise money in other channels. But the goal that we have with that give back is they don't feel that there's still risk, but not as much risk when they know that they can support the event. What we learned the last 2 years is the $50,000 seems to be the magic number. Towns are able to reinvest that and do the things that make sense and not, live outside their means or their budget, and are able to have profit at the end because they didn't just buy random things that they don't need. And our pitch is do things in your community that you're going to be happy with the day before, the day after, that live in your community the day before, the day after. Don't bring things in to dress up your community, because riders can see through that.
Yeah.
Do things
we want to see the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So do things like painting the gazebo, painting or touching up the murals in town. Do the things that you're going to be proud of long term that the riders are looking for when they come in. I don't know of a rider that looks for bouncy houses coming into town, and like that's their RAGBRAI. They want to check out all the bouncy houses that Iowa can produce.
I'm murals, man.
Yeah, murals,
I'm
right?
all about murals.
It's the Freedom Rocks. It's all the things that we're proud of living in these communities. Let's find ways to showcase that. Invest in the community. Don't invest in things that will leave the community and go somewhere else. Now, porta potties, you got to invest in porta potties, because if you don't have porta potties, no one stays. Right. People need that. But do the things that your town needs. And we work with a gentleman out of Coralville, Josh Schomburger, who would take Coralville every year on the map if he could get it, but he understands budget, and he works with the towns and kind of covers at high level what towns need to be thinking about, because it's, in some cases, it's been 5+ years that RAGBRAI's come through. Our give back has changed. The ride has changed. So he just keeps top of mind of here's where your money should be going early on to run a smart budget. And that seems to, over the last 2 years, really, really help. So overnight towns is $50,000. Meeting towns, which is the halfway point, which get more riders or more support because you're halfway. It's the one spot on route where we allow vehicles to come together. They get $10,000. All our pass-through towns get $5,000. Our county give back this year is changing a little bit. Last year, we got the emergency management guys and gals to play a bigger role, and we want to make sure that they're supported in future years. So it's $6,000 back to the county. $2,000 goes to the emergency management players, $2,000 goes to the sheriff, and $2,000 goes to the county engineer, all for helping us be successful. And we know that $6,000 is not going to cover expenses in from a county project standpoint. It's just our way of saying thank you. So you can take the $2,000, and if it's a sheriff, invest it in the canine program or the dive team, or something that you're trying to raise money for. It's just our way of saying thank you. Same thing with the emergency management. If there's something you're trying to raise money for or buy, now have a line item that can help get you a little bit closer. So that's kind of the give back in that standpoint. And then there's a lot of other things that we do that we really don't talk about from an infrastructure standpoint that we provide to the overnight town. So it's 80+ porta potties at the RAGBRAI main campground. It's the big video board that they can put sponsors on that kind of tell the tale of what's happening in your town. So there's a lot of other things that we kind of work on, the maps to make sure the town maps are dialed in and ready to go. This year, we're going to cover the price of the printing. So we can actually just deliver the maps, so they don't have to worry about finding a printing company and then transporting them back and forth. It's just finding ways that we can make their lives easier. And if we're traveling, we can drop the maps off rather than having to send someone from the town to connect with someone else in the town ahead or the town, back. But yeah, we're proud that we can say that, over the course of the last, 4 years, we were able to give back, $1 million to our towns, our partner agencies to help, keep riders in Iowa.
And that goes to, there's so much more that your registration dollars go to than just porta potties and the route. So much more. I mean, a lot of those things you just mentioned, you don't even think about. Yeah, the money basically comes right into RAGBRAI on November 15th, and then it goes back out in checks. So, we, from a line item standpoint,
I've already kind of, shaken hands and saying, hey, we're going to commit to $50,000 for you. So the town's going, okay, we want that money. Well, we need riders to register. And, I hear and I fight the battle of, well, I don't use your services, so I won't register for RAGBRAI. And, the answer is we need you to register because you're now investing in the ride that's investing in the communities.
Right.
And, for someone that tells me they don't use our services, but yet they're in line for a porta potty, or they're on a road that is being protected by the state patrol and county agencies, and they can truly get lost in Iowa and not have to worry about cars and stop signs and all these things. That's a service that RAGBRAI provides. So, the 20 trips across the state, looking at roads, dissecting roads, fixing roads, all these things that, they're not services that I ever use, but you're on the road. So it is definitely a service. I get the baggage trucks. Like I don't transport my bags with RAGBRAI. Somebody else carries my bags. I understand that, but there's just so much more that goes into it besides baggage.
And the big question would be, why do you choose to ride across Iowa at the end of July if you don't utilize the services?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and it's there's a service that I don't want people to use, and that's our ambulance service. So like,
sorry, Bob Libby.
Yeah, sorry, Bob, but there's nothing better feeling for me when I drive by an ambulance and their feet are up and their eyes are closed and like they're enjoying the day because they're just not being busy.
Yeah.
But it's also a service that because they are so good and they have the ability to get there fast. If you do go down, you know that you have a team that's going to take care of you and get you back on the road. Because they are truly the best in the business, and they have the ability to get into spots quickly and help and then get you back on the road. Because that's the number one goal is if you go down, we get you back up and we get you moving forward.
Isn't there a song? Get knocked down, get back up again?
Maybe in your generation, I don't know. Not mine.
It's Chumbawamba.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so you briefly touched on something about the 15th. So I'm assuming you mean November. So
Yep.
November 14th. I'm sorry.
15th.
So November 15th, registration opens. So what does that mean?
So you can punch your ticket to RAGBRAI. And, I was in a director conference in Tucson a week ago, and you're there with, 50 different events from all across the United States. And, you talk about what their event is, where their stress points are at, how many registered riders that they have. And then they start talking about the price point or the ticket for their event. And we're by far one of the cheapest tickets out there.
Really?
When you open registration at $230 and a lot of these, multiple day events are starting in the $400 or $500 amounts for services that probably aren't as much as RAGBRAI, when it's all kind of pulled together, all the way up to, thousands of dollars for an event that, is similar, but not truly RAGBRAI. And then you look at RAGBRAI and go, man, it's only $230. That's a pretty good value for a week on the road being supported by, the ride. And, if you just break it down by day, it gets even cheaper,
right.
When it's all said and done.
Hour by hour.
Hour by hour. Yeah. I mean, you look at it and go, man, I'm not spending a lot of money for this.
Right.
But it's also, you have rides like, the New York ride where it sells out and people are spending, double that for a ticket for a one-day event.
Right.
And, logistically they're doing things that are different than RAGBRAI because they're shutting down New York basically for a day. There's a lot of bigger things that are in play. But, at the end of the day, I can sit there and be proud that, man, we're one of the cheapest events out there, but the value that comes with RAGBRAI is not cheap. It's very expensive when you look at that. My pitch is, if you're going to sign up for RAGBRAI or Ride RAGBRAI, punch your ticket right away, get in there so we can start planning because we are very transparent with the towns. So in February, when we have our first meeting, we tell them we've registered this many so far. This is where our goal's at. This is where we're kind of think we're going to fall, and it helps them prepare. But what I can't tell them is the amount of people that just show up to ride that don't register. So a town that is preparing for, a certain number may order 30 porta potties, but the day of, they need 60 porta potties.
Oh, yeah.
So the town just can't go out and buy another 30 porta potties the day before because of trends that we're seeing. So, it'd be really, really cool to one day be able to tell a town, 25,000, no more, no less. Let's plan for this number right here, knowing that that is the number. But we tell them plan for 20,000, and then 40,000 show up, and you go, sorry, like you can only do so much, right? So we plan for what we know is coming. But for the riders that that live in Iowa, say I don't use their services, I don't need to pay because I pay taxes, and the funny things that we hear. Pay for the ride, invest in the ride, because the ride is investing in these towns. And if you want this ride to, last for the next 50 years, help us with that. And know that the team that is running RAGBRAI right now is finding ways to reinvest that money back into community. And I always joke, like what could be possible from a town standpoint if we were able to get every rider to register? What could that give back be? What could the support be to the towns? It's truly be one of those things where, you would have towns fighting for RAGBRAI because there would be no risk, because RAGBRAI is helping with them be successful. So, my pitch is if you are a bandit, I like seeing you on a bicycle, but it's better seeing you on a bicycle with a band on your wrist.
I've done the New York ride before, and it's like you said, it's one day, 35,000 people, but they also have. This will never happen on RAGBRAI, I hope. But you're required to wear a special helmet cover.
Yep.
And then at certain points, there are like officials that will pull off people who don't have that special helmet cover. And so it definitely cuts down on the bandits, but it's
we were joking about that. So the two guys that were in charge of Bike New York were there, and we were talking about bandits. And he was one of the guys was sitting behind me, and I just turned around and I said, so how many bandits are you talking? And he kind of paused a little bit. And he looked at, the guy that works with him. He's, oh, God, maybe 100. And I almost fell out of my chair. I'm like, I would take 100 bandits year after year if that was truly the number.
Out of 35,000.
But we're dealing with thousands of bandits, right? So, it's just one of those things where, gosh, invest in the ride that is trying to invest in these towns, and then we can truly leave some impact behind in Iowa.
Yeah. And it makes sense, the planning process. Like, it's just things as a rider you don't always think about because it happens so far ahead of the actual ride.
Absolutely.
So, okay, last question for you. You keep saying that we're going to find out the route in January, and unless you live under a rock, you know that happens at what's called the RAGBRAI Route Announcement Party. Have you started planning on that yet?
Yeah. So we've already had multiple conversations with Vibrant and that crew that's going to be helping us out there. We shifted gears last year, went to Vibrant Music Hall in Waukee, Iowa.
Which was epically cool.
It was awesome.
Oh my gosh. So that's cool. We're going back.
Yep. And it was one of those things where we were in the same building for a long time, and change always year one is a little rough on people. But I think the ones that came said this was a good move for us. It's literally, 15 minutes from downtown. So it's not terribly far away. Beautiful music hall. And if you were there last year, we branded it RAGBRAI. So no matter where you went, there were signs everywhere. It felt like the RAGBRAI HQ. So yeah, I had already had multiple meetings with them. Right now we are looking at securing a band. Hayden on our team and some of our other teammates have found a local band that we're really interested in. So we're kind of chasing after them right now. And then when we open registration on November 15th, we'll actually open registration for the route party too.
Cool. Okay.
It'll all tie together. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it is truly Iowa's best kept secret. We announced the 8 overnight towns that night in January, and then you see the fury of people trying to book hotels and call people in these towns, and they almost get to a point where they stop listening to me on stage because they're trying to call and get a hold of someone in the town. And I always joke that I feel so bad for the individuals working the front desks at hotels in these areas because their phone is like constantly blowing up, and they have no idea what's coming, and what they're going to get hit with.
Right, because they don't know the routes
coming.
Yeah,
they're thinking just a Saturday night where they're going to have just the normal traffic and they can't get off the phone. So I also feel bad for the people trying to check in because it's hard to check in when you can't get someone off the phone to check you in. So I'll just apologize now. But so we do that, and then literally that's where our year officially starts. We give towns that are there that night a week to kind of just breathe a little bit and process, and then we are on the road that following week traveling across.
So that's January 24th at Vibrant Hall in Waukee. And you said, it's a ticketed event, so you said people can register for that event the same day they register for RAGBRAI, which is
November 15th.
November 15th. Cool. Matt, thank you so much. Obviously, everyone knows that you can go to ragbrai.com to find out all this information. If you're listening to this before November 15th, get it on your calendar to get registered. If you're listening to this after November 15th, get on there and get registered. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Well, listeners, that is it for today. We want to thank you for tuning in to listen to the Just Go Bike podcast. If you would like to contact Murph and AP with a comment about the podcast, or maybe even you have a topic in mind, you can reach us at justgobikepodcast@gmail.com. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook and watch our intros on YouTube. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, especially if you're a fan. That is going to do it for this week. Until next time,
just go bike!
Theme song by Ryan Steer, logo by Suzanne Milosevic, produced by Kathy Murphy, social media by Andrea Parrott, intro by Pumpkin. Until next time, just go bike.